So on page 15, where the prior record summary, it says that Mr. Bruce has the second sentence after the prior record summary. It says 5 of those crimes are firearm-related felony convictions. That's where Mr. Bruce disputes that he has 2 prior felonies, not 5.
And counsel, I'm going to just make a written notation on the pre-sentence report that will then go with this case and be the Department of Correction will have access to that. I'm just going to make a note to the effect that Mr. Bruce disputes a number of the entries in his criminal history. He believes that he only has 2 prior felony convictions, and that the accuracy of this criminal history needs to be thoroughly reviewed. So I'll make that notation on the pre-sentence report itself as to that correction or clarification your client is asking to make. And again, I'm not in a position to say whether you're correct or not without researching and looking at that criminal history. So go ahead, counsel. Are there any other objections or corrections?
Those are the only requested corrections for the pre-sentence report.
All right, Mr. Rogers, does the state have anything we need to clarify in the pre-sentence report?
No, Your Honor.
Do either party intend to call any witnesses today, or are there going to be any victim statements today, Mr. Rogers?
Yes, Your Honor, there are 2 victim impact statements to be given by Shelton's daughters.
All right, and Mr. Archibald, were you intending to call any witnesses today?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Well, we need to proceed with the statements of the victims first, and then I'll hear the recommendations of the parties. So, please have.
That's SHEA and then SHELTON, and I am Patrick Shelton's oldest daughter.
All right, go ahead and make your statement.
Hello, Your Honor. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to speak today. My name is Shay Shelton. As I said, I am Patrick Shelton's oldest daughter, and I'm here to talk about a man that I've loved my entire life. A man whose loss has changed and will continue to change my entire life. Like many kids, my dad has been my hero my entire life, and I wanted to be just like him. This larger-than-life man was many things to many people, but for me,
Can I interrupt you just for a second to maybe kind of slow down, take your time? A court reporter is trying to take a verbatim record of this, and it's kind of hard to keep up. So just, I know you're a little nervous, just kind of take your time and read your statement.
All right. I will restart the paragraph. Like many kids, my dad has been my hero my entire life, and I wanted to be just like him. This larger-than-life man was many things to many people. But for me, he will have always been my dad first, and I would like to take some time to talk about the things that made him great. He was a passionate, intelligent, and kind man. A man who took time to visit single moms around birthdays and on the holidays to make sure that they had everything that they needed. From food on the table to the gifts that kids have been begging for but remained just out of reach financially. He did this not out of obligation, but because he could, and he knew how important these moments could be, especially as someone who grew up with a single mom himself. He was never too busy to be a helping hand when it was needed, no matter the task or the time or what project of his own he needed to drop to be available. My dad and I were similar in many ways, from interests to hobbies to a fondness for sports teams that were never very good anyways. 2 things that he passed me that I will always hold core to my being are sports and a profound love of books. He was a gifted and accomplished athlete and split his skill over multiple sports throughout his life, often at the same time. When I began to show interest in sports, it was him who encouraged me to try anything that sounded even a little bit interesting. And it was him who reminded me that loving the game and the ways it connected you to yourself and to others was always going to be more important than any amount of points or wins. This, of course, did not stop him from cheering louder than anyone else in the crowd when those wins or points happened to occur. My entire life, both of my parents have been prolific readers, and books were an essential part of my childhood and now remain so in my adult life. So there was never a shortage of stories, but me and my dad shared a common love: fantasy novels and the power of storytelling. Some of my first favorites came secondhand and love-worn from his collection. They were stories of heroes and villains, of impossible feats and rich magical worlds. They were also stories of good and evil, and how good would always win in the end. how you had the power to change your fate if you believed hard enough and tried your best. There are 100 things I could name that I loved about him, and I will always be proud of the things that he passed on to me. A deep and lasting interest in sports, a love of storytelling and curiosity for the world, an intense competitiveness when it comes to foosball, being a loyal friend, knowing when you need to stand your ground, and the understanding that if you have the ability to help someone, you also have the responsibility to do so. These were the things that made Patrick Shelton who he was, and I hope that people remember me the same. Like any other person, he was flawed and complicated and got caught up in his own life. Likewise, I am flawed and complicated and prone to getting caught up in the distractions of my life. This caused a period of time where my dad and I weren't talking much and didn't have much time to be present for each other. 2 weeks before the events of May 8th, I noticed that my dad had reached out twice to check in on me and I had missed the messages. Months had passed since the messages had been sent, and I was busy at the time making plans for my mother to come visit for the upcoming Mother's Day weekend. I told myself that I would send a message back once things were settled. Later, soon, but later, and we would talk then. I didn't know that our later would never come. May 10th, 2025 is a day I will never forget. I had just recently come home from a Mother's Day celebration with my mom, my aunt, and my grandmother when my mom pulled me aside and told me that she needed to tell me something, that I should sit down to hear it. She told me that my dad had been reported missing and hadn't been seen for days. I would not wish what followed this moment on anyone. The knowledge that someone you know and love is missing is hell. Every minute feels as if it stretches hours, every second filled with countless scenarios and flashes of all the ways they could be hurt, or lost, or scared. As the time stretches, you understand that the chances that they're found alive dwindle to nothing. Then it's hours and hours of the ways that they could have died. Your desperate pleas of, please find them alive, let them be safe, let them come home, change to pleas of, please find him, any of him, let there be something left to be found. You don't eat, you don't sleep, you barely breathe. Days of this pass. What food you can choke down tastes like ash, what sleep you can find is filled with nightmares, or worse, the dreams that make it seem like it had all been some misunderstanding. His knock at the door, his voice on the phone saying, sorry for making you worry, but it's all okay now. A few days after the news that he is missing, Alan Bruce is arrested and the probable cause affidavit is released, and shortly after picked up by local news stations. And this is how I find out what happened to my dad. A news article entitled Shoot, Shovel, and Shut Up on a website tells me that not only is he dead, but he was murdered. And not only was he murdered, but he was shot, dismembered with a chainsaw, burned, and thrown into the river like trash. Worst fears become reality. He's dead, and the hope of anything ever being recovered disappears like smoke. The only thing left of my dad are fragments of his skull picked out of the truck he was murdered in by the people who loved him. Those fragments now sit in a cold box in a state lab where they will likely stay. To lose someone is never easy. To lose them to murder, another thing altogether. Then to know that his body was treated so horrifically following his death creates a wound that is impossible to put into words. A wound that can never shrink or heal because there is no body to bury, no ashes to spread. Nothing that would allow the people who love him the chance to say goodbye, to hold something that proved that he was here. No ritual, no closure, and nothing to help cope with the pain of that loss. And then Alan Bruce, the man who murdered my father, sends a letter to my sister saying that he's done us all a favor by dismembering him and destroying what was left. Saying that we probably couldn't have afforded a funeral anyways if there had been a body to bury, so at least he saved us a quick buck. It's disgusting and pathetic, and it reveals a person who shows no remorse for what he's done and the people he's hurt. It exposes the ugliest a person can be. 3 weeks ago, I turned 25 years old. 2 days ago, my dad would have turned 48. And in 3 days, my sister will turn 18. 24 is very young to lose a parent. 17, even younger. I will never get to ask my dad what lessons he learned at 25, and he will never get to tell me what he learned at 48. I will never get to ask him for guidance or a story about 24 years worth of living. I now face the rest of my life not only mourning the man that he was and the memories that we made, but all of the memories that we never got a chance to make, and the man he never got a chance to be. I will never again be able to find anything else that we have in common. I will not get to see any more parts of him echo in me that are not already there. I will never beat him in a game of foosball. He will never meet my partner or my children or see 1,000 other things that we could have shared. And that will be a new wound and a new grief every time for the rest of my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shelton. Thank you for your statement. All right. Counsel, just a moment. Let our court reporter come in and have a seat. I apologize. I couldn't see over the bench here to see that our court reporter wasn't present. Have a seat. Just give him a moment to get set up, and then we'll discuss some of these matters we've discussed previously. Put that back on the record. So we're on the record on this matter with Mr. Bruce. Our court reporter had to travel, make the same trip as me from Salmon. Been busy all morning in Salmon with court. Had a long day there and had to hustle to get here from Salmon. The record will just reflect that we did record some initial portions of these proceedings on an FTR, and we'll have a transcript available of those proceedings that were recorded on the FTR system. We addressed initially a request by Mr. Bruce to be allowed to withdraw his plea of guilty, and the court made a ruling on that matter and denied the request and indicated we're intending to proceed with sentencing. We went through the process of some clarifications or corrections to the pre-sentence report. And now just completed the first victim statement from Shay Shelton, who's the oldest daughter of the deceased Patrick Shelton. And so we'll proceed now to have the additional victim statement to be presented. Mr. Rogers, would you wish to make a statement?
Yes. You ready to go?
Yes. If you can go ahead and just state your name and also just kind of take your time in speaking so our court reporter can make a record of these proceedings. So go ahead and state your name first.
My name is Hope Shelton, HOPESHELTON.
And you are Patrick Shelton's youngest daughter. Right. Let me go ahead and make your statement.
Hello, Your Honor. Thank you for letting me speak today. As stated, my name is Hope Shelton. I'm here today not only as a grieving daughter, but also as an advocate of justice on behalf of my father, Patrick Shelton. This is by far the hardest thing I've ever had to go through within my 17 years of living. When I first got the news about my father being missing, it was a Friday, around 1 in the afternoon. My heart sank. I prayed it was all a big misunderstanding, that my dad was okay, that his truck had broken down, that his phone died. Immediately, I called out of work to go looking. When I saw the truck parked up Big Hill, I knew something wasn't right. I spent the next couple of days of searching for him, praying I could find him, hiking up and down that hill and the surrounding area, praying, trying my best to remain strong for my family, for my dad, getting cuts and bruises from falling in the sharp branches, but knowing that whatever happened to my dad was far worse. So I pushed through, praying that I can make it to him on time. My prayers went unanswered. On May 12th at 4:36 p.m., I got a message from one of the investigators asking if me and my mom, Shannon Garrison, could come down to the sheriff's office.